Hey, everybody. John Gums here with Dakota Grappler. We are on a Wednesday night right before Thanksgiving. Gonna talk some wrestling tonight. We have right now our head wrestling coach from Pierce, South Dakota, Shawn Lewis. Hopefully our headliner, Randy Lewis, will pop on later. He's right now, he hasn't popped on yet, but hopefully he does. I'd like to talk some Olympic wrestling. I've been giddy all week to hopefully get him on. But of course, we're here to promote wrestling. And guess what? We have my right-hand man right beside me, Bill Holden. And then below us, we have Shawn Lewis. How you doing, Shawn?
I'm great. How are you guys?
Hey,
fantastic.
Good. Just excited to get back to wrestling. North Dakota, we had a little pause here. We had 1 week of practice, and then we've had a couple weeks off, and we get to go back to the grind, you could say, and get back going on Monday with practice. And so a little excited about that. And I believe then our first competition, I got to get that straight or not, is probably going to be about the 14th. So Shawn, let's get you a question right away. I saw some results from last night, but it was junior high and some girls wrestling. Tell us what's happening in South Dakota wrestling right now.
Started practice last week. So I've been kind of at it for a while and a week and a half. And, we kind of had our wrestle-offs last week, or not last week, but last night. And so, we've just been getting things going, kind of playing things by ear. And, hopefully next week we'll have some competitions going on. But, yeah, there's been some middle school wrestling out west, and I've seen some of those results come in. And, it's been just kind of everybody, like I said, playing it by ear and seeing how things are going to go.
Well, awesome. Well, I did hear a rumor, and we talked a little bit beforehand here, but South Dakota does have, now for you guys that don't know this, does have girls wrestling this year, and Pierre might have the biggest team I've heard in the area. Tell us how much your numbers and basically what you've been doing, because I know you guys got to split practices. We'll talk about that too, but tell us about your numbers and your girls team right now.
Yeah, so we didn't really know what was going to happen with the girls' numbers. We were kind of like everybody else on a wait and see, and then we had signups and had a bunch of girls, and then it was just seemed like the floodgates kept opening and they kept showing up, and we scheduled morning practices because the girl crew that we had really was adamant that they wanted a separate practice being individualized for them, and then all of a sudden we've got 27 girls that have shown up to do this thing. So, we're running, I'd say a 6 through 12 girls practice to try and keep them all together. But realistically for us, it's 6 through 10 as we don't have any juniors or seniors that are giving it a go. So, realistically, if numbers hold true and things like that, our numbers are only going to go up from 27 and we're hoping so. There's, like I said, there's excitement with it right now. And we've got some coaches' daughters that are in it that are also recruiting, along with, I coach football. So I basically was after our football managers and some girls all summer long. So, we were hitting the recruiting trails really hard when we heard that it got sanctioned, and then COVID stuff hit and it really deterred everything. But as we got things open this summer, we were definitely putting bugs in as many girls' ear as possible. And obviously a lot of that paid off.
Well, I tell you what, I'm excited to see that, because now how many of those girls have actually had any mat time before this year? Are there some of them that wrestled a little bit in kids?
Yeah, we've got a middle school girl that wrestled down in Kansas. She had some time down there. And then, my daughter has wrestled AAU quite a bit. So I would say that, she's got some experience. And then one of our assistant coach, Chad Urig, his daughter's a freshman and she's doing it. Not that she's had a ton of mat time, but, she's had a dad who was a 4-time state champ and a little brother who's won a couple AAU titles. So I'm sure she's been the practice dummy, more times than not in her life. Outside of that, it's pretty much, we'd love to say we're starting from square one, but from a lot of them, we're starting with square zero and teaching. So it's a definite reminder of the process. That's for sure.
Well, tell me your schedule right now for practices, because I know it's going to be long. You just got out of a state championship football season. So I'll guarantee it's just basically coming down from a high, coming back to wrestling, but yeah, you're going to be so busy. Tell me your schedule and what you're doing for practices right now for both boys and girls.
So right away, first week we were doing 2 days with both of them. So I was running a girls practice at 6 o'clock, and then the boys were coming in as well and doing some conditioning and stuff with our other coaches. And then after school, we are basically flipping, where then the girls were doing conditioning after school and the boys were doing their practice. And we did that all of last week, and then got them in the pool at the end of the week to recover their bodies. And then, this week the girls have pretty much said that they wanted to do the morning practices, so they'd have opportunities to do some other things after school. So we've been having the girls do morning practices, and then the boys will come in and do their lifting in the mornings. And then after school, we've got boys practice and the girls get in the weight room and do their lifting. So it's been a split squad trying to use as many resources as possible, but it's so far, worked out wonderfully.
Well, I tell you what, like I said, I'm excited. How many boys you got out right now?
We've got 40 in our varsity room right now, and then at our 6 through 8 in our middle school, we've got another 42.
Oh wow!
Yeah, so we're trying to go with 100,
awesome.
109 people, that we're trying to coach and get after it. But we've got a lot of guys that are coaching and volunteers, so we're able to cover and do the things we need to do. The problem is we're running into facility crunches, with capacity on our room and capacity on our middle school room, and then with girls. So we're also here in the near future going to have to get creative about, where we're at and times and what we're doing and where we're possibly doing it. So it's good problems.
And taking 5 buses wherever you need to go.
Yeah, it'll definitely be a big bus, probably 2, maybe, depending on what we're doing. So.
Okay. Well, Bill, let's you talk a little bit here. And I've got to take, I think, a Randy Lewis phone call, so I'm going to let you guys talk for a second.
Okay, sounds great. Yeah, Shawn, that's what a great job you're doing down there. I it's exciting to hear that. So, how long have you been the head coach at Pierre?
I think I was trying to count this up the other day, and it's really hasn't been that awful long, but I think I've been in Pierre now for 9 years, and 10, and I think this is my 9th year as head coach.
Okay, and so there's obviously a long history of wrestling in the Pierre area.
Okay,
what what's the youth program look like? The feeder programs, it kind of builds up to these great retention you have at the junior high and high school level.
Yeah, we attribute everything we have to our youth program. On average, they get in between about 110 and 150.
Yep, you're popping in right now, so that's all you'll need.
Kids, and
I'll just see you on there in a second.
You're going, 4 or 5 different.
I'll talk to him on there. Yep, thanks.
With those guys, and we get some beginner practices. So it's those guys and those coaches provide an absolute fantastic base for us and our kids, and we just keep them rolling from there.
Yeah, no, that's, that retention is obviously key, and you guys obviously have done a great job with that. And now, showing that excitement and bringing the girls in and having that many girls that are, willing to give it a go, I think is just, is really an awesome situation. So I know these practices, these days get long and the weeks get long, but I'm glad you guys are, up to the task.
Yeah, we had to tell our youth program, we're like, man, you guys got to watch out, because if we're going to get 27 girls in our room, you can only imagine what the youth numbers are going to be. They're probably looking at having another separate girls practice for them as well.
Yeah.
There we go. Well, as you can see kind of a little bit there in the bottom corner, some of you guys that are watching, got Randy Lewis starting to pop in. Eventually we'll get it focused in and get him in there. And can you hear us, Randy? Hopefully his daughter can help him out a little bit there. He's popping in. Now we got to get your volume going. If you can hear us, bring your daughter back. Can we get your volume going? I think I can hear you.
Yep. Must have a mic working. Randy? Oh, there she is.
Hey, Randy's daughter. If you need to call me back, you can do that too. But can you hear me? Nod. Can you hear me there? Hope we got to get her volume going. But no, as we go, hopefully we can get. I saw Randy Lewis for a second, guys. We'll get,
so Shawn, give me a little update on what your schedule looks like with the junior high and the girls. I'm kind of curious what kind of a match count, how they're going to be able to compete.
Right now with our middle school, they were just really unsure about what they'd be able to get to, with typically a lot of our early season stuff dealt with our West River schools. And, with Rapid City being shut down as far as practices, they're kind of missing some things. But I think for the most part, what our middle school is looking at is they're going to be jumping on our ESD duels with us. So our conference duels, we're really looking at having a middle school duel to kick the whole night off, followed by a JV duel, and then being able to match the girls up and wrestle them, right before the varsity duel actually takes off. So, we're going to have some long night of wrestling, but, we're going to pretty much have a whole town versus a whole town. And there's some excitement with that. So I definitely think it's the right, capacity to be continuing growing this thing during our COVID times.
Yeah, that's exciting. I'm going to have to try to look and see what that schedule looks like. I think I'd like to come down and catch a couple of those duels. They should be a lot of fun.
Hopefully they are.
Yeah. Looks like Randy's getting closer.
Yeah, I can see his face. Yeah, it's good. We'll get volume eventually. She'll figure it out, or I'll walk her through it. But I tell you what, I'm excited to see what you guys bring. When is your next event, Shawn?
Well, currently we are looking at our first week is supposed to be next week and next weekend. And, originally we're looking to go to Mandan, but then, you guys got shut down. And so then we're looking at doing something out in Rapid, and then they got shut down. As of right now, what it's looking like is we're actually going to take our girls to Clark, and they're having a separate girls division in Clark. And so I think our girls are going to kind of get all the attention of the coaches for the first weekend. And we just got to, get through some final stages of planning to get them in there and see what that actually looks like.
Yeah, that sounds like a good start to the season. I was curious, I think that there's going to be a lot of value really in this year. A lot of the fun becomes in the competition, but I think a lot of these girls that you have that are, a lot of first-time wrestlers or girl green. I think the ability to just get better, right? Just to learn some skills and technique. I think that'll be real valuable to them, especially when you have them that are all so young.
Yeah, that's all we're looking to do right now is kind of get all of them going and rolling, and try to harness that excitement. Is a lot of them, they're learning and they know that they're green, but they also just want to get a competition or two, under their belt, and just kind of get them after it, because they ultimately don't know what their matches are even going to look like this year and who's going to have what for girls, and matching them up on scrambles. And so, if we can get them going and, get them in the right direction. We're only looking at 4 weight classes for varsity, but from my understanding is we can actually qualify multiple girls per weight class for the girls division for right now. So, if we do have a couple girls at the same weight, still an exciting time for them.
Yeah. Have you talked to many of the other coaches that you will be dueling and got an idea of where they're at girls wise?
Realistically, I think the only other coaches that I've talked about girls so far has been Canton.
Okay.
And that's because they've got similar numbers, I think, to what we have for girls. And so, we're as coaches trying to stay in touch because, their girls want matches. They know we've got girls, and, vice versa. So we're going to try and get those girls to meet up any chance we get, just to make sure that we get a lot of matches.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's exciting. We were talking beforehand about, you saw that Class A in North Dakota has the ability to have a couple kids from the same school ranked at the same weight, and that's been a nice situation here in the state. But I'll be honest with you, I'm more jealous of you guys having the girls getting an opportunity and seeing some excitement behind them right away. So I think this is it's a great thing for the state of South Dakota and girls wrestling in general.
Yeah, it's definitely something to, be on the ground level of, constantly moving forward. As, there's been some excitement and some build for a few years. And, specifically, my daughter was in it, and, then we kind of saw the writing on the wall and there really wasn't much of a future. So she started playing basketball. And then when the word of the sanctioning came back in, it was, coming back in, Dad, I'm going to wrestle and put on a Pierce singlet. And so, we got excited and we started getting as many other girls excited as possible.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Well, let's talk about your boys, the varsity high school boys team. I know you got a good squad coming back. Tell us a little bit about, what that's going to look like.
Yeah, we got quite a good squad coming back. Didn't necessarily lose a ton last year. So a lot of returners, but we had a lot of kids who grew and are fairly bunched up. So our depth in our middle classes is definitely going to be a strength of ours. And realistically, it's just going to be kind of balanced across the board. As far as what we're doing, I think, 82 on up, we're going to have very similar lineup. We didn't lose any of those guys. So big guys, we're not going to have to do a lot of replacing and retooling right there. It's just a few weight classes here and there in the middle, but for the most part, like I said, pretty experienced crew. Yeah.
You guys, it's been a long run there of solid lineup. So, and you're just from talking to Tom Schoenhardt in the past, what are you kind of looking like your season's going to look like? They're not going to be a whole lot of tournaments, or they're going to be limited size wise and duels.
Yes. So for the most part, we're limited on our tournaments just to size, and there's an exact number that it is, and I should probably be able to tell you the exact number being as I watched my meeting and took my test today, but I've had a lot of other things going on, so I can't remember the exact number. But yeah, so it's basically eight teams at a tournament. You got a 4-match cap on what you can wrestle per day, and then we can only have 2 scheduled competitions per week. So
right, that's
some towns and things are getting pretty creative where they're going to have a Friday tournament and then have a Saturday tournament as well. So you kind of get that back-to-back overnight, but they're 2 different tournaments and breaking things up, into pods. And it, as long as we're having a season right now, I think, we're all winning. So it's just kind of gonna see to make it through. But yeah, lots of duels, which our conference with our ESE, we put a pretty big emphasis on duels anyway. So our schedule did not do a whole lot of changing, just a few tweaks here and there to make sure we were sitting in that 2 competitions realm. And then, a few different tournaments just modified how they were going to do things. So.
Yeah. It sounds, I kind of feel the same way. If we can get a season going, I think we'll feel pretty good. So, well, there's Randy joining us now. Hopefully we get some sound and he can hear us and we can hear them.
Hey, I can hear you. Yes.
You hear me?
Yes. Perfect, Randy.
Okay.
Well, I tell you what, I'm going to introduce everybody. Randy, I am John Gums. I am owner and editor of Dakota Grappler. I've done this for 20 years. I started Dakota Grappler in 1999, and it was basically started out highlighting wrestlers in North and South Dakota. And then I did a preview book. And for about the last 3 years, I have started to go online and interview coaches and do lots of different things just to promote the sport. And so my upbringing, I guess, introducing myself, is I grew up in a wrestling family. My dad was a longtime wrestling coach for Napoleon, North Dakota. He's in the Wrestling Hall of Fame in the state. And I wrestled for Bismarck Century with Terry and Troy Steiner, some people that know that way. And I was a state champion, and we got nominated into the Hall of Fame, in fact, for our team in 1988. And then basically that's me. I've done everything. I wrestled for NDSU, coached at Valley City State, coached Mobridge, South Dakota, and then coached in Mandan for many years. And so that is me. On my right, you can see that's Bill Holton. I'll have him introduce himself.
Yeah, I'm Bill Holton. I'm a long time. I've been around the sport a lot of years. It was obviously a wrestler. Spent some time coaching. Was a wrestling parent at that's probably my claim to fame these days. And just a big wrestling fan. Love the sport. Follow everything there is. So.
And then on the bottom we have Shawn Lewis. He is the head wrestling coach in Pierce, South Dakota. I've had him on before, and he is huge ambassador, great coach. They've been in the running. In fact, won 3 state championships in a row, and then now last year they had a little rebuilding. But I tell you what, he has 109 wrestlers in his wrestling room, both boys and girls, and so he is. I tell you what, having a great program in the middle of South Dakota, and you know where Pierre is, of course. And so I'll let him talk a little bit about himself. Shawn, tell Randy a little bit about yourself.
Shawn Lewis, no relation to Randy that I'm aware of. So, all my family's originally from Redfield and wrestled around there. But, I was a Bonham High School graduate and won a dual state title and individual state title down there, and wrestled at Northern State University, and, just been at it from there. Been at a couple small schools, coached at Elk Point Jefferson, and then I coached at Aberdeen Central before I, landed here at home in Pierre, and been at it for about 15 years and do everything. Now I'm a wrestling coach and a wrestling parent, and just can't get away from it.
And
Can I hear you?
Yep. And you're a little froze, Randy, but we can maybe hear you though. Feel free to talk.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. You don't have to move. As long as we can hear you, it'd be good too.
There's going to be a statue here.
Yeah. Well, tell us what you're doing right now, Randy, and where you're at.
Well, right now I'm in Iowa City. I'm with my daughter and we're family, and we're I'm here for Thanksgiving, but I'm living in Iowa City in Des Moines right now, kind of going back and forth between both. And I'm with a company that we called Yellow Blue LED, and I switch businesses out from fluorescent lighting to LED lighting, and that's where I'm at right now.
Okay. Well, I've been giddy for a week to talk to you. I idolized you kind of as a kid. I remember watching you in the Olympics in 1984. Got to see in 1987, we were down in Rapid City, and your parents happened to have your gold medal in the basement, and they invited our Century team down there, and I got to see your gold medal. And I've been an Iowa fan going back to of course, everybody loves Dan Gable, but the Bannocks, and they were some of the first camps I ever went to. Ed and Lou Bannock, you probably know them very well. And so tell us first where you grew up, and give us a little, South Dakota knowledge.
Well, I grew up in Rapid City, South Dakota, and I went to Rapid City Stevens, and I set the national high school record. My sophomore year in high school, I was 29-0 with 29 pins, and I pinned my first 16 guys my junior year, and it was actually Rod Salverson from Bismarck Century that stopped my pin streak, and I lost to Tim Pudwell when I was a freshman, beat me 8-6. So my last loss in high school and the guy who broke my streak were both Bismarck guys. And I know the Steiners are both Bismarck guys, and love them. And I still keep in contact with them all the time. And I became really good friends with Tim Pudwell and Rod Salverson and all the Bismarck people. And I've been up there doing camps many times. And I know, was it Milo Trusty and Monty Trusty, know them very well. And so I have very strong connections to the Bismarck people.
Oh, I tell you what, Milo Trusty, in fact, I'm going to have him on soon. And Milo's a great friend of mine, too. Grew up, in fact, his boy Monty wrestled on that same 88 team.
Oh, yeah, I know Monty. I know Monty very well, yeah.
Monty are crazy. He's the crazy one of the group.
Yeah, well, I'm a little crazier than him.
Oh, yeah. Well, tell us, you went back to South Dakota, and 2 South Dakota wrestlers just happened to break your record. Both kid out of Canton, South Dakota, the pin streak in a row, and then Nash Hutmacher. Did you get to meet both those wrestlers?
Yeah, yes, I did. And boy,
Kellen March. I forgot to mention his name.
Yeah. Okay, so what's funny is, I just happened to be. I knew it was like 2 weeks before that at the Rapid City Invitational in December. I was there, and I watched Nash Hutmacher, who I knew was going to break my record. I watched him get like his 41st pin in Rapid City, South Dakota, in the finals of the Rapid City Invitational. And so then I put the word out. I said, probably next week, Nash Hutmacher is going to break my used to be a national record, but like 6 other people have broken it. So it's now just a state record of 45 pins in a row. And I kind of put that out there. And then all of a sudden somebody said, well, hey, Kellen Marsh is going to, did I say the name right there?
Yep, Marsh, yep.
Yeah. Is going to be breaking your record on Saturday before Nash Hupmaker, because they're both in the tournament, and he was like 1 pin ahead, and he was also a lighter weight, so he's going to get to the semis faster and get his 3rd pin. And I just happened to be driving back from Rapid City, South Dakota, back to Iowa that weekend, and I was going to overnight in Sioux Falls on Friday night and drive to Iowa on Saturday. I swear to God, I was just working out that way, and so and somebody found this out, I think, and contacted Kellen Marsh's coach is it Canton?
Canton, yep.
Yeah. And said they're having a tournament there on Saturday. I heard you were driving through, happened to be, it just freaked out. So that I happened to be able, okay. So like at 10 in the morning, I just drove there to the tournament, watched him in the quarterfinals, pin his guy to tie me, and then the semis to beat my record. And I was there, and they made a really nice picture. They put the 2 of us together, and they said, Kellen Marsh breaks Randy Lewis state record of 45 consecutive pins with his 46th straight pin. And Nash Hupmaker ended up breaking it again later that day. So for 44 years, it was a state record. Then it got broke twice in the same day by 2 different guys. And then let's see, Kellen Marsh, he ended up with 49 pins. He didn't pin his 50th guy in a row. But Nash Hupmaker, my understanding is that he ended up, and I was at the state tournament to watch him pin his way through it and watch them both at their state meet that year. And Nash ended up pinning 72 guys, if I'm correct, 72 consecutive pins. And I believe 71 of them were in the first period. That's unbelievable.
That is true. I tell you what, he is a man among boys. Best, I remember Babyface, but we'll talk to him a lot. His dad and I are good friends on Facebook, and I tell you what,
I put my arm around Nash, and I felt like I could take him from here.
I'd like to see you lift him.
I won't take him very far.
Okay, well, let's talk about when was the first time that you realized that you wanted to wrestle at the next level? Like you wanted to proceed and go to college and wrestle.
Well,
and how did you pick Iowa?
Well, I got to tell you this. I remember when I was in 2nd and 3rd and 4th grade, I was reading about Johnny Unitas in the NFL and Bob Mathias in the Olympics winning the decathlon and Jerry West and Wilt Chamberlain. And I just thought I was going to grow up and be a pro athlete. I didn't realize that it was a 1 in a million shot or anything like that. I thought I was going to be, I thought all of our friends, my friends were really good. We were all going to go into the really good athletes. We were going to go and be in. Well, I was the smallest guy. I was like, when I was in 8th grade, I was 80 pounds. In 9th grade, going in, I weighed 84 pounds when I entered high school in 9th grade at 98. And I lost to the guy that got 2nd in state in South Dakota, who was a senior, Dave Riss from Pierre, in my 2nd varsity match. And then a week later, I beat him. And then he ended up getting 2nd in state that year, and I got beat out. I wasn't even varsity at the end of the year. And I beat the kid that got 2nd in Wyoming at 98, and I lost to Tim Pudwell, who won North Dakota from Bismarck.
Mm-hmm.
The 6th, and we become great friends. And, I'm great friends with almost all the guys that I wrestle against. That's one thing that I love about the sport. But anyways, I just thought that I was going to be, and I remember a friend of mine was like, Randy, he goes, and then I won state my first year because I was small. So I was wrestling against guys my size. And I went undefeated my first year, and I won the state. And I decided that, well, wrestling is going to be my sport, and I'm going to be an Olympic champion in wrestling. I just assumed that was going to be. And my dad and I made plans, and we set goals each year. And it's like, okay, if you beat a guy this by 4-0, the next year I want to beat him 8-0. And by the guy that I beat 4-3 to win the state when I was Dudley Duffenbaugh. I beat him 4-3 when I was in 5th grade, and then the next year when I was in 6th grade, I beat him 9-0. And then I wrestled him again in 7th grade, and I beat him worse. So I was improving every year more than the other guys because I was outworking them and doing all the right things. But I mean, it was like I literally thought that all my friends were going to be in the NBA,
NFL, NBA, all those things.
It didn't even occur to me that I was not going to win the Olympics when I was in 5th grade. And my dad helped me set a plan, and we decided. I mean, I remember thinking that I thought I could run a 4-minute mile when I was in 6th grade. I was really naive, but
you just wanted to be the best you possibly be whenever you did.
Wrestling was a sport that my dad helped me set goals. And, it's just like I went to camps in 6th grade. After 6th grade, the summer after I won my 2nd state title, I really got a lot better because I went to a wrestling camp that had Terry McCann, who was Olympic champ, teaching it, and Myron Roderick, who was a 3-time NCAA champion, the head coach at Oklahoma State at the time. So I did all the right things, the same things that the Bill Shears did and Lincoln Matt did, and all the great, and the Steiners did, and the Tom and Terry Brands did. You go to the camps, you go get you outwork everybody, and you go get the right, you do the right things. And wrestling is a sport that, in basketball, you can't teach you to be tall. You can either, you're either 6'8" or you're 5'6". I can't teach myself to be 6 foot. So I got zero chance to dunk a basketball, no matter how hard somebody taught me to jump higher. So that's just impossible for me. So wrestling is a sport where you're going against people your own size. And like the Steiners, they're not athletic at all, but they outworked everybody. They became great wrestlers, and they became national champions. And wrestling is the sport that you can become great even if you're just an average athlete if you do all the right things and put the work in. And I had a natural feel for wrestling, and I worked really hard at it. But I not only worked hard, you work the right way. Because if you practice something wrong 1,000 times, it takes you a long time to fix that. I had a natural feel for things the right way, and I could see there would be moves that I might have hit for 100 times for 2 years, and then I'd get somebody and show me just a slight little adjustment, do it this way, and it works a little better that way, and I would see it right away, and then I didn't need to do it 1,000 more times to correct what I'd already done. I could make that correction immediately, and I enjoyed wrestling, and I was very, very strong-willed to win. But and you know what? And I will tell you this: there are moments in your life. And I'm going to tell you this story that like a not necessarily life-changing, but career-changing thing, that a defining moment in your life. And for me, it was when, and he's a good friend of mine now, Phil Hammond, and I met with him that day when I pinned my when I was with Marsh.
Kellen March, yep.
What's that?
Kellen March, yep.
I was with Kellen Marsh. Phil Hammond was from Sioux Falls, Lincoln, and I competed against him in high school. I'll tell the story first, but he's still a real good friend of mine, and he was the coach. He coached at in Sioux City, Iowa, and to some state championship teams there. But when I was a sophomore in high school, I went into the Sioux Falls Invitational Finals. I was 11-0, and Phil Hammond was 11-0, and I was ranked number 1 in the state, and he was ranked number 2 in the state, and I pinned him, and I had 11-1 in the first period and pinned him, and I just went, wow! I just pinned the second. That was the first time I ever thought about pinning everybody the whole year. And I go, I just pinned the number 2 guy in the country, and my teammate said, well, you just pinned the number 2 guy in the state, not in the country, in the state. You're going to pin everybody this whole year. And I thought, okay, then that was my new goal. was to pin everybody, and I did. I went 29-0 with 29 pins, and that was a defining moment. And then after that, I felt like, okay, and I had won age group national championships. I won in 6th grade. I got second in 7th grade, or I won it in 8th grade. I won it in 9th grade. So I'd been to 3 national tournaments, and I won it my sophomore year. So I'd been to four national age group tournaments, and I was a 3-time national champ and second the other year. So I'm thinking, I'm the best in the country, and I'm supposed to pin everybody. And it was just like, in the Olympics, I didn't pin everybody, but I tech falled everybody. And if they wouldn't have had the tech fall, I would have gone for the pin more, because that was it. But I felt like when I was in the NCAAs, I won it twice, but I did not pin everybody in the NCAA tournament. And I was bummed that I didn't. I felt like I'm supposed to pin everybody I ever wrestled. And I did pin a lot. And by the way, I've wrestled 9 world and Olympic champions, and I beat 8 of them, and I pinned 5 of them. And I pinned a lot.
Well, tell me one thing here. John Smith.
Yeah.
Tell me, was he one of your toughest competitions?
John Smith is the greatest wrestler I ever wrestled in a match. The greatest wrestler I ever wrestled in practice, Dan Gable.
Okay.
John Smith was, I will tell you this, I was better in 1980 than I was in 1984. In 1984, I was coming off some injuries. In 1980, I was at my peak physically. And then,
that's when they
1988.
Get to go to
what's that?
Olympics.
1988, you mean, right?
No. In 1980, I'll get to 1980.
Okay, yeah, but 1980 they didn't have the Olympics.
1980, I was better, and I pinned the Russian. There was a 2-time world champ in Rapid City, Viktor Alexiev, and then he would have been their Olympian, but he got hurt, so their alternate went. And I pinned the guys that got 2nd, 3rd, and 4th in the Olympics that year. And in '84, I won the Olympics, but I wasn't as good in '84 as I was in '80. And I was in 1988. I had come off. I'd partied for a couple of years, but I still kept getting better even without training. And then I got dedicated. Then I had a total knee constructive resurgery, but I worked my ass off, and I lost. I weighed 166 on January 1st in 1988, and I trained really, really hard, and I was able to lose the 30 pounds to make weight. And this is when he had night before Wednesday, if you still make weight 3 nights in a row. I was at my absolute best, and I wrestled so good. And when John Smith beat me at the U.S. Open that year, he beat me 10-8 in the match, and he had a couple calls go his way, but it didn't matter. They were marginal calls, but they went his way. But I walked off that match. I said, I just wrestled the best match of my life, and I lost. And I held my head high, and then I beat him in the Olympic trials in the first match, and I led in every match. And I had him beat. I had him. He hit the best move I've ever seen. He hit a low single to my left side that nobody had ever hit on me before, and I watched it over and over. I go, I did not make a mistake. He just hit a great move that I'd never seen before, and I go, without me seeing that, I would not know how to counter it. Now, after seeing that, I know how to counter it, because I had the ability to counter something after seeing it just once. And like there was some other moves that he hit me before. I hit some stuff on him that I had never hit on anybody else, because he forced me to be in that position. And he told me, and John and I are really good friends, and we discussed our matches before and after, and he is the greatest wrestler, but I'm very proud. And in before, and then I led in every match, and I put him on his back in every match, and he led in every match. Every match we had was back and forth until the very end, except for the third match when I was ahead and I blew my knee out, and I still tried to wrestle and gave up some points, and finally the referee thankfully stopped the match and called it default. But John Smith is the greatest wrestler I've ever wrestled, and I was proud of what I did in those matches.
Yep. Well, I remember it because it was a battle. I used to get was it the Win magazine?
Yeah.
And I might still have the one where there were pictures. They went 3 pages of you guys basically wrestling in the Win magazine, going paragraph by paragraph. This just stuck in my mind of how close you two were. Not only as friends, they mentioned in that thing, having to work with each other. And then when it was all said and done, you got to be partners after you just had some of the biggest losses in your life. And there was actually I got to find that because I loved it going back in the Win magazine.
Well, I don't know. What do you mean by we had to be partners?
Well, basically, you guys, you were competitors first, but then and then how it said it in the Win magazine is you were the one that drove him to his Olympic championship.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. Well, yeah. Well, he was already the world champion, and he had won 135 matches in a row before I beat him. So I can't say like he needed to beat me to win the Olympics. He was going to win those whether he had the winner of our match was going to win the Olympics. That's just.
Well, Shawn, you got some questions for Randy too along the way. You're good. You're not just a spectator. You can talk.
No, I'm just excited to hear all these Randy Lewis stories. It was actually crazy when the pin streaks were going on, as I had the opportunity to be at the Rapid City Invite, and then when March broke the record, I was with my team at the Elk Point Jefferson tournament. So I've had my fair share of Randy Lewis sightings over the last year.
Well, thank you, Shawn.
Definitely. No, tell me like how wrestling took you around the world. Where did you all get to wrestle? Did you get to go a lot of international stuff?
Yeah, yes, I did. And I mean, I my first trip going international was my sophomore year in high school. We went on a trip just to Canada. Like it was I won the AAU Nationals, and we went to Canada, like on a USA trip. And then my junior year, we went over to Turkey, and and then I went over to Moscow and Russia 4 times. I've been all over the world. Most of the wrestling, the best wrestling was in the European. I mean, it was in the communist countries, and they were very poor then, and the food conditions were bad, and it's like I got food poisoning in early 80s. I went over to Tbilisi and wrestled there, and I got really sick one time, and they were telling Gable. They told Gable he was coaching. He took our team over there. I can't remember what year, 82 or 83. You see, just Randy Lewis, he has the typhoid fever, and he will be dead tomorrow. I have the typhoid fever. I got food poisoning, and I will be dead if they keep me in this fucking hospital. Pardon me.
That's okay.
They almost killed me, and I said I need them to give me some 7-Up and some this, and I knew what food poisoning was, and finally they got me out of the hospital. But I've been all over the world. I've been to Tokyo. I've been and
blessed.
We went to the countries that we visited, and I will tell you this, just like, what were these countries like? Well, you know what? I was just wrestling the whole time. We weren't there sightseeing because you're over there wrestling and you're cutting weight and you're working out, and when you're having to sweat off 8 pounds every day and make weight, you're not checking the sightseeing. So
did you wrestle all styles? Did you try some Greco? Did you try any other?
Okay, I was a real good Greco wrestler, and I actually I won. The worst I did was 4th in a national Greco tournament. I won the first Greco-Roman tournament I ever wrestled. I wrestled at 114 in freestyle, and then the Greco that day at the AUs when I was a junior. I didn't want to make weight again. I weighed like 120 after I wasn't 6 pounds to wrestle Greco, and I lost in the finals to Andre Metzger, who was a great Greco wrestler and a great freestyle. He placed. He's in the Hall of Fame, 2-time NCAA champion. One of my best friends, also one of my best competitors. And I wrestled him in the Greco finals of that, and I threw him for 4 and got hit 4-0. Then he pinned me, and then. But I got to tell you this story. Okay, so and then I wrestled. My senior year, I wrestled in the AAU Junior World National Tournament, which is a 20 and under national tournament in Greco. And I pinned all 6 guys, and I got outstanding wrestler. And one of the guys I pinned, I was ahead of 12-0. His name was John Montelakis. And then that was at 125. But then I wrestled in the Grecos at the USWF Junior Nationals. And Montelakis, we wrestled at 132, and he was tall, so he was a little heavier than me, but it didn't matter. But at that tournament at 132, he beat me 27-10 after I had been ahead of him 12-0 and pinned him like 3 weeks before. And then 2 years later, and this is the last, and I won another national Greco title, so I got like first, second, or third. I placed in the top 4 in like 5 Greco national tournaments, and those are the only ones I ever wrestled. But the last Greco-Roman tournament I wrestled, I was at 136 pounds, and this is after I was an NCAA champion that year at 126. So this is after my sophomore year in college, but it was Greco at 136, and I wrestled a guy named David Soul from California, and he beat me. There was no tech falls. He beat me 27-8 in Greco. I did a lot of bridging. I will tell you this. I fought off my back a lot back in the day because I was a dangerous wrestler. I had the highest scoring matches. And so I get beat 27-8. And then John Montelakis, who I had split with earlier in my career 2 years before, I had beat him really bad. I was ahead of him 12-0 and pinned him. Then he beat me 27-10. John Montelakis gets ahead of David Soul 12-0 and pins him. Then I got to wrestle John Montelakis, and I beat him 27-12.
Oh,
so we all beat the heck out of each other. And I think because Montelakis had the pin, he won it. I can't remember for sure. I did not win it. One of those two won, and I got second.
So did you have a main wrestling partner that you got to work out with like on an everyday basis? Or several of them? Who were some of the main guys you got to work out with? Okay,
I was at the University of Iowa, and we had for 15 years, we had the best workout in the world. Maybe Russia might have had a better workout place, but certainly in the United States, we had the best workout place. I had all sorts of guys. You know, when I was young, I had the older guys beating on me. When I was older, I had guys Tom Brands, Barry Davis, you know, Brad Penrith. I had national champs, guys that were future national champs, and they were then, and older guys. It's just like, and in 1980, when I made the Olympic team, my main competition was Tim Szewski, who was the coach of the Hawkeye Wrestling Club. So he's there, and it came down to me and him to make the team. I beat him 2 out of 3. He beat me. I beat him the first match 6-3. Then he beat me like 13-4 the second match, and then I wrestled really solid, and I beat him 3-2 the third match. And that year, I would work out with him once a week. We'd wrestle at least once a week for an hour and a half in practice, and we wrestled 7 times. I went 5-2 against him, and I was 0-3 before him. So I'm 5-5 against him. But that year, I wrestled 7 times against my number 1 guy, and he was my teammate in the room. So, and you know what? It's like, okay, my freshman year in college, I lost 4 times to Mike Lamb from Iowa State, and I got second. I basically pinned everybody else in the country. I mean, I didn't have any close. I only had 4 matches. I won 30 matches. Only 4 were by a regular decision. But I did have 2 other losses, and they were both to teammates of mine in the room. Keith Moreland, who was from the Hawkeye Club, who was graduated from college, got second in the NCAAs the year before. He beat me 7-5. And then you may remember Jay Swanson from Rapid City, from my high school, and he was a national champion. He was AAU national champion. He beat Andre Metzger 5 times in high school. And Andre Metzger's in the Hall, a 2-time NCAA champion. He's beat me 5 times, and Jay Swanson beat me at the Midlands when he was a sophomore and I was a freshman. You know, I mean, so I mean, I had great workout partners. I was in my, you know, like my dad would hire people to coach me during the summer, and not just me. My dad was the guy that did it for everybody. He'd pay for every 10 kids to go to the national tournaments and to go to wrestling camps. And he'd have me working out with Jay Swanson and Jay wanted, I mean, we had a good, that's what wrestling takes. More so, I think wrestling is a sport that you can, if you do all the right things, but you know what, you have to have the financial capabilities to do it. And it's like, there are some sports, it's just like, if you can run fast, you can run fast. You don't really need somebody to teach you to run faster. They might do a few things here if you're 100-yard dash, but wrestling, you need to get the right technique and learn from the right places and do the right work. And I was very fortunate with and just like, that's what all the guys that are great now, they've done the same things that I did. Lincoln McRae, we did the same kind of things that I did in high school, and Bill Shear did, and those guys, Jim Shear, and the guys, who let's see. Yeah, I'm thinking of the younger guys. Let's see. Logan Storley and who's the guy Logan wrestled for third place in 3 times at the NCAAs? Yeah.
Oh. The other South
Robert
Dakota.
Kokesh.
From Nebraska, yeah.
Kokesh.
Yeah.
Kokesh.
Yep.
What was Kokesh's first name?
Robert.
Yeah, Robert Kokesh. Yeah. So South Dakota has had a lot of great wrestlers. And,
Nebraska head coach.
You become a great wrestler by doing, you got to have the work ethic, the talent, but you got to get you need to have the right workout partners and learn the right techniques. And it just, but you have to, it takes everything.
Yeah. Bill, fire away. You got, I guarantee.
Yeah, no, I'm just a huge fan of Randy's, and when he was kind of in his prime, that was, when I was, a few years younger than Randy, and was able to watch all that happen. And it's one thing that I thought of when, he mentioned that he's in, 6th grade or so, and just knew he was going to be an Olympic champ. We all thought that.
Yeah.
You were the only one that did it. Right. I thought the same thing. I mean, there was no doubt in my mind. But then I went to St. Louis to wrestle in a AAU national tournament and got pinned by Barry Davis. So I figured he's going to be the best guy in the country, not me. Right.
Yeah.
But, so I just think it's a great thing to think about, though, because we do. And that's what drives, a lot of us to, my son that's wrestling in Northern State right now, I think he was 0-12 in his first 12 matches. He started wrestling in 7th grade, and about 6 or 7 matches in, he was already talking about wrestling Division I in college.
Yeah.
He knew he was going to do. He was going to wrestle in college. There was no doubt. We all do that. So that was great.
Off of that, okay.
Go ahead.
I'll tell you a quick story. Like guy, you said he was like lost his first 6 or 7 matches. Boy, I wrestled. I'm trying to think. I'm drawing a blank on his name. I'll think about it here in a second. Okay, when I was a junior in high school, we went on this national trip to Turkey. And one of the guys on there was from Oregon, and his freshman year in high school, he lost his first 30 matches, and he only won one. He was 1-30. And then his junior and senior years, he was undefeated.
Wow.
Okay. And he was 167 pounder. I'm trying to think of his name. Okay. And anyways, okay. And check this out. Okay. He pinned when they were seniors. So this was it was my senior year that I went on. It was because he pinned. This is a guy that lost 30 matches as a freshman in high school. And when he was a senior in high school, same age as me, he pinned Dave Schultz at the USWF National.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
And he wrestled for Oregon in college, and then he made the Olympic team for Canada. He had dual citizenship, and he wrestled in the Olympics for Canada at 180 pounds, like in 88, 84, or 80. I think it might have been 84. Yeah. So anyways, the guy was 1-30 as a sophomore in high school, and as great as Dave Schultz was in high school, he pinned Dave Schultz. Jeff Stewart was his name. Jeff.
Oh, okay.
Jeff
One story that when you were talking about that and you were talking about the Olympics, I remember hearing you tell a story one time about, when you saw Dan Gable win the Olympics in 1972.
Yeah.
And there's two parts of the story. I think there's a beginning and an end, right?
And let me tell you this. So this is what I thought. Okay. I first heard of Dan Gable in 1972. They said that he won the Olympics and nobody scored a point on him. And people were telling me to impress me. And I still remember right where I was when I was told. I was right outside the junior high and the thing. And I can't remember the guy's name, but I remember what he looks like that told me that. And told me about Dan Gable. And I said, and I remember thinking, well, and I was 65-0 when I'd already won 2 state titles and won a national title. And I was thinking, well, if I was as big as him, I could beat him.
Pound for pound.
Yeah. And then I said the story, 19 years later, I was finally as big. And when I was 31 years old, I moved up to 149. I was finally as big as Dan Gable. And I found out I was wrong. Okay, now, I got to tell you this other story about Lincoln McElravy. And this is about, I will tell you this. I was one of the highest scoring wrestlers of all time. And I don't think anybody enjoyed their wrestling career, had more fun than me ever. It was just so fun for me. All my matches were so much fun. And there was so much action in them. And I remember Lincoln McElravy got beat like 4-3 in the Big Ten finals by some guy that I never even heard of. I don't know if the guy was even ranked or not. But I saw Lincoln before. I was living in Arizona. I just moved there. And I talked to Lincoln before the NCAA tournament. I said, Lincoln, what are you doing having a 4-3 match with anybody? I go, you got so much talent, so much energy, so much, you can create all this action and do all this. I go, you need to go out there and score at least 15 points every match. I said, have you ever scored 15 points and lost a match? And he goes, no. I said, well, I have, but only a few times. And then, okay, I've lost 4 matches on criteria that they didn't go to overtime in my life. You know what the scores of those 4 matches were? 15-15, 2 were 14-14, and 1 was 13-13. So that's 4 matches I've lost where I scored 13. And then I lost the match in the World Championships in 1978 when I was a freshman. A true freshman, I made the world team. And I was losing 30-16, and I got pinned with 1 second left. So I've lost at least 5 matches. I don't know what's going on here.
Oh, there we go.
Can you guys still see me?
You're good.
You're good.
I can't see you, but anyways, that don't matter. Okay, so you guys aren't that good looking anyways.
No, that's for sure.
Okay, so that's at least 5 matches that I've lost where I scored over 13 points. But I made things happen. And
that's
and this was like, I remember I made the statement. I said, I would rather lose 13-12 than win 1-0. I go, I would be embarrassed to win a match 1-0.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's about scoring.
There's 2 things when I think about Randy Lewis and the career and all those matches. And those are the 2 things. It's always scoring points, and they're just crazy situations, and scored so many points. And then, and how many people you pinned. I mean, that's, when we look at today's, and I would be, give it a second here.
I don't know what's going on with my computer.
There you go. Yeah, I'd be curious to hear what you think of what you're seeing in wrestling today, and the number, the type of activity, and we're seeing a lot. I think we see a lot fewer pins. We see more tech falls, I guess, obviously.
Well, it's just here's the thing. Okay, once they put the tech fall in, okay, it's just like, I'm one of the greatest pinners of all time. Yet in the Olympics in 1984, it's way easier to tech fall a guy than to pin him. And you want to, that's what your goal is, to go out there and end the match as soon as you can to make sure you win. And so it's like, you can't at the gut wrench, and I like every time I got on top of somebody, I could gut wrench them twice and score 4 points. And now you get on top one time and you can gut wrench and tech fall a guy in 30 seconds or 10 seconds. You could gut wrench a guy 5 times in a row. Back in 8, and they've changed the rules so many times. But so when I went into the Olympics in 1980, I feel like I pinned my last. They were 9-minute matches, and the goal was to pin somebody. And there were no gut wrenches or leg laces. It was when you got on top, you're trying to pin him. So you put on a guy on his back to try and pin him. And if you held him there for longer, if you exposed him, it was 2 points. And if you held him on his back for 5 seconds, it was 3 points. So that you went for pinning combinations. Well, there's still great action by seeing. I don't mind that they've eliminated the pin and put the pin is still there, but they've eliminated the pin and put in the tech fall by scoring people. But right now they're giving 2 points for a takedown, and even if you just expose the guy hand to hand, it's still 1 point. I think the tech fall should be at least 15 points and probably 20 under the current rules, because the tech fall should be when you're so far ahead that the guy virtually has no chance to come back. Are you guys still there?
Yep, we're still here. Absolutely.
I can't see you guys, so I wasn't sure. Okay, so anyways, in 1980, I pinned my last 11 guys international. I pinned the Russian that was a 2-time world champ. I pinned the guy that got the silver medal in the Olympics, the guy that got 3rd in the Olympics, and the guy that got 4th in the Olympics. And I pinned my last 11 guys. They were 9-minute matches. But in the Olympics in 84, I just had 5 tech falls because it was so much easier to just get takedowns and tech fall and turn them and tech fall them and expose them to their back. And I will tell you this, I was one of the best on top at pinning, and I'm one of the best on top at turning you just with the gut wrench and things like that. And so I don't mind bragging about myself. I was really, really good in every position. And I knew I went out there if it was 1980 rules, I would have gone out there to pin everybody, and I would have pinned everybody. But under the rules in the 6-minute match and the tech fall rule, I'm going to go tech fall everybody. And I wasn't even trying to pin them. If I threw them to the back, I would pin them. But once I got on top, I'm not going for it. I'm going for the gut wrenches twice. And I was just, nobody could stop me. And I just knew I was going to tech fall everybody. And the one thing I am proud of is that my gold medal match was 24-11. It was then, and it still is, the highest gold medal match score in history.
Wow.
And in 1979, in the NCAA finals, I won 20-14. That is the highest scoring NCAA finals match in history. Now, the second highest scoring NCAA finals match in history is by Lincoln McElravy. So Rapids, South Dakota people have won the 2 highest scoring NCAA finals matches in history.
Yep. Do you watch a lot of college wrestling today?
Yes, I do.
Who are some of your favorite college wrestlers to watch right now?
Geez, who's the guy? Spencer Lee. Have you ever heard of him?
Oh yeah, of course.
Oh, I love the great. Bo Nickel wrestled a lot like me. He had the same kind of style, like with the overhook and his throws and stuff like that. I love all the great ones. There's right now, the rules really create action. There was about a 12-year period where the freestyle rules, and they carried over to collegiate style in the way they called it, and where they weren't calling stalling for anything, and they let you. It was just a stall fest. And people were doing nothing. It was just push a guy out of bounds and get shove outs and things like that. Right now, they've really revamped wrestling and made these guys wrestle and score points. And I'm seeing some great wrestlers at all levels. Wrestling is really on the rebound right now and doing a lot of right things. And I hope this coronavirus doesn't interfere and cause a bunch of colleges to drop their programs, which it may. I mean, but there's so much great. I'm I went to 40 consecutive NCAA wrestling tournaments, and I've always stayed up on it. And I watch. I have the ability to watch these guys wrestle now, and I know that's great what he does. They'll be in a position that I've never been in and I've never seen before, and I'll know immediately. But if he did this, it would be better. If he had his hand here instead of here, it would be better. And I can help some people with some stuff in positions that I've never been in, but I know that. And it's like there are some things that, like when I had the ability to wrestle John Smith, and he put me in a position, like 3 positions that I've never been in, but I did the right thing, and I threw him out of, or I came out of. I did some things that I know where I'm at in every position. And when I watch these guys today, they're putting themselves in positions that I've never been in, but I would say, wow, that's really good. But if he did this, it would be even better.
Have you ever had an opportunity to do some commentary on some matches?
Yeah, I have done some. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because that's one of the things I really enjoy. Because I tell you what, it's different as a spectator than a wrestler, but a true wrestler knows all of the positions where somebody's getting into and what they should have done. I've done it before where you have some coaches like going into a finals match. I've watched both wrestlers, and I was actually talking to a coach right before the finals, and they didn't realize the other wrestler was left-handed. And I'm going, what? He shoots his high crotch the opposite side. And I told the coach, and the coach said, oh my. And it was the difference of that kid winning is because guess what? I don't know how a coach couldn't see something like that. It's those little things, like you're saying, you can see the position and where they should be at. And it's just something you have deep inside you.
Yeah,
definitely. So, you said you spend your time doing some stuff. When was the last time you actually put on your wrestling shoes? You still have an opportunity?
Let's see. Probably been a couple months.
Because you are what, 60 right now? Is that correct?
I'm 61, but I feel like I'm only 58 and a half.
Well, that's pretty good. I tell you what. And if you stepped on the scale, could you make 155?
Well, if we move to the moon.
What about the last time you competed?
55 kilos? Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. What about the last time you competed? Tell us about that.
When I was like 50? That time?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that time, what happened was I was coaching in the room, and very rarely, like about once a month, I'd wrestle with somebody for like 15 minutes. Now, and I would wrestle somebody big and strong and national champs, and I was beating them. I mean, and like I worked out with Ben Askren, and we went some positions, and I threw him. We went on some positions. We didn't wrestle. We were starting in positions, and I said, Ben, I could throw you in this move 5 times in a row if you do this. And he did it 5 times in a row. I threw him 5 times in a row. And I wrestled with some other guys, and everybody's afraid to wrestle me. I was 49 years old, 47, 40, for 3 years, and I'd only wrestle. But once I'd wrestle somebody like one match, I mean, like I'd go like 15 minutes, all I could survive, and I'd be sore for 3 weeks. And but I ended up, we're at the NCAA wrestling tournament, and I had quite a few cocktails in me on Saturday night, as I had on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday night too. And I was talking to one of the guys an Iowa guy that we had that was our backup heavyweight, weighed like 220. And we got talking smack somehow. And over who this, he said he could blast double me and duck me and do this. I said, if you did that, I would knock you right on your ass. And so we decided, let's go a match. I said, I would beat you in a match right now. It was drunk talk, basically. And I said, well, I've been drinking for 5 days straight and the earliest I've been to bed is like 3 a.m. So I need like 4 days to sober up. I'll wrestle you Wednesday, and I'll bet I can kick your ass in the match. Well, we went 2 matches on Wednesday, and I turned out I was in. And 2 weeks later, he got second at the Junior World Nationals at 220 pounds or 213 or whatever the weight was. I can't remember. And so he weighs 20 pounds more than me. I weighed like 185. I just beat him there. And then I had some people get some cocktails in me and decide for me that I should. And Ben Askren was the one who told me, he kept telling me, he watched me work out with some people. He said, Lewis, you should wrestle in a tournament. Wrestle. And you should. I said, Ben, I said, you know what? I go, every time I wrestle with somebody, I kick their ass. But I get beat. But then I decide, and I think, shit, I can still beat some guys. And I just want to go to one tournament and see it. Not like I'm going to beat the best guys, but I was still beating national champs in the room pretty convincingly. And I said, but every time I try and train, I get hurt. And they said, well, don't train, just show up. So I decided, okay. So all I did for 3 weeks, and here's the thing, I made the mistake of cutting down to 163. I should have just wrestled 185. What I should have done was just said, let me wrestle a 163-pounder that weighs 180. We both weigh 180, an exhibition match. But I had to cut 22 pounds, so all I did was cut weight. Well, and they talked me into it when I got drunk, and so I put it out there that I called a friend of mine. I said, put it out that Randy Lewis is definitely wrestling in the world team tryouts in 3 weeks in Waterloo, Iowa. So put it out there so I couldn't back out on Monday when I sobered up, you know. So I made a phone call and committed myself to it that night. And then I realized I was 22 pounds overweight. And all I did not step on the mat one time in 3 weeks. All I did was cut weight for 3 weeks. And my body was, I realized when you're 50 years old, you can't recover and feel good. And I won my first 2 matches, but I couldn't even wrestle like I wanted to the first 2 matches because I wanted to conserve my energy for the later matches. I should have just wrestled. I really only had one good match in me against somebody good. And that's what I should have done was just said, let's wrestle an exhibition match, you know. And I believe I could have done very well against somebody real good in one exhibition match where I didn't have to cut any weight. But I made the mistake of wrestling in a tournament and the tournament that I wrestled in, was a world team regional tryouts. They're supposed to weigh in at the time. The rules were to weigh in at 2:30 in the afternoon the day before, but they had a high school tournament, so they did not weigh in until 8 o'clock at night the night before, which means I had to suck out the whole day. So I woke up that morning 10 pounds over, and I sweated off 8.5 pounds in the morning. Then I drank 6, and then I sweated off 8.5 to get down to weight, and I didn't weigh in until 8 o'clock that night. So I was really sucked up. My body cramped up. I mean, my legs were cramping up during the match, and my back cramped up. By my third match when I wrestled Mosefe, I had a hard time even walking to the match. So I made some, I've done dumber things in my life.
Well, I tell you what, it's like the nightmare I've had many a times where I dream where I'm going to be going into a wrestling tournament, but man, I know I'm out of shape, so I'm just going to take it easy to start. And it's a dream. I wake up in the morning all beat up.
Now, and when I wrestled Mosefe, that is the first time I've ever in my life gone onto the mat knowing I was not going to win. I knew I was not going to be able to win and I made the decision. My body was totally cramping up, and I made the decision that I'm not going to fight anything and get hurt. This isn't worth. I'm going to lose anyways. I'm not going. There was a couple situations where I just bailed out on, like I wasn't going to fight his leg lace or his gut wrench and hurt my ribs get hurt when he's in a situation when my body's cramped up, because I'm not going to win anyways. But it was fun doing it, and it was. I'm not embarrassed that I lost.
No. Another great story it makes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I tell you what, Randy, I've loved every second of this. We've been going for an hour 15 just talking wrestling, and we do this every week. We'll get on here and talk for an hour and a half sometimes, Bill and I, and we get a couple of people on.
Well, I'd be glad to come on again if you when in a few weeks or whenever, if you feel you need to.
Well, I tell you what, I will have you on again, Randy, and we'll get the technology straight along the way. Just keep your daughter close. And because I tell you what, we hear you just fine. You're frozen in a good position. It's not like your mouth is hanging wide open or nothing. You still look pretty good on here.
Can you still see me?
Oh yeah.
Okay, I can't see you guys at all. I don't know, but that's good. That's a good thing that I can't see you. Okay.
Yeah, no, it is good. Yep. So before we wrap up, I know John's going to kick us off, but I want to hear a couple of these guys that you've wrestled with in the room. Some of the ones you had real good battles with. Maybe a Tom Brands or some of the coaches, J. Rob, or some of those guys.
Well, I will tell you this: when you come into Iowa, there's a big brother thing. It's like Gable and Jay Robinson knew how to beat me, and I never did learn how to beat Jay or Gable. And I knew how to beat Tom, and Tom, I guarantee you, he never beat me a single day. But some guys did, and I was bigger. You asked me about Tom Brands. Shit, when he won his third national title, he was perfect for me because he attacked at the hips and he drove through hard. And I was the best in the world at countering his particular things. And I had 15 pounds on him. And you cannot wrestle Randy Lewis and give up 15 pounds. By the way, when I moved up to 149, I worked out with John Smith, and I had 15 pounds on, more than 15 pounds on him. And he wasn't touching me, so the room is there was, but what I had was Tom and Terry Brands and younger guys like that, and Barry Davis, and that would shoot. It was amazing how Tom Brands could shoot in on me 100 times, and keep going and going and going, even though I'm 15, 20 pounds heavier than him, and I'm the best in the world at countering what he did. It's like I'm wrestling Tom Brands, who was like probably at the time he was number 2 or 3 behind John Smith at 136, and I just pinned the Russian world champ at 149, and I was ahead 13-4. So I should be able to beat the number 2 or 3 guy at
a lower weight.
When I'm beating Tom Brands, I'm no longer 136 pounder. I weighed 168.
Yeah.
And I was strong as heck, and Russ, and he. So it's just like I told the story about how I went out partying the night before the football game, because the home football games, I went out on Friday night hydration night, I call it, because you'd be surprised how many people go out and hydrate on Friday nights before home football games. And we'd have wrestling practice on Saturday morning. And there's a story that I told about how I wrestled Tom Brands on Saturday morning, and he'd shoot and I'd score. 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 And I said, well, after he kept shooting and shooting and shooting, I kept scoring and scoring and scoring, I didn't feel so hydrated. I go, so the last go, Gable goes the last go. And finally, Tom Brands shoots in, and I made a tremendous scramble, and he almost took me down. We came out of this thing, and we got in like a 30-second scramble, and I gave every ounce of energy I had, and I finally got the takedown. I did come out on top for the last takedown, and I said, I swear to God, I have never been so tired in my life. And when I got the takedown, but I could wrestle really good when I tired. I would suck it up. I would never ever give up, even a takedown in practice, because I was tired. or exhausted or whatever. But I scored and I laid off. I let him go and I rolled onto my back and I said, I called timeout. And Tom Brand stood up and had his fist clenched and he's spittle coming out of his teeth. And he's like, Lewis, that's effing bullshit. And he actually said the word, not just that's effing bullshit. He goes, we don't take timeouts at Iowa. I said, as I lay there on my back, on my deathbed, I looked up at Tom Brands and I muttered the soon-to-be immortal words, Brands, you'd be tired too if you just got done scoring 100 points. That is 100% true story. It happened exactly like that, and I did say that to him, and he smiled at me and said, F you, and he walked away, and I got
Love it. How about Terry and Troy? Did you get to wrestle that much?
Yeah, I wrestled Terry and Troy Steiner. Okay, now. Oh, and I just sent them a little and yeah, the Steiners, I used to wrestle them and I'd have them rotate in on me when they were freshmen and sophomores. I'd have them rotate in on me. 21 takedowns. Because we played. I said, you guys know how blackjack is. Let's play a game of blackjack. We'll go to 21. That means I'll stay out there and you guys rotate in on me. One guy comes in for one takedown as soon as I get it the next game. And I would take them down 21 times in a row, with them rotating in on me. And I beat them like the first 10 times we did that. And then at the Big Tens, their freshman year, I had been down in Florida and I went out. Did a clinic down in Florida and I was out partying all night. And I had to get up at 6 a.m. to catch a plane. And I went up at the Big Tens and it was after the first round of the Big Tens. And I got a workout in with the Steiners and they go, you guys want to play a game of 21? And they said, yeah. So we went into the room and it was heated up for the guys to cut weight. It was like 100 degrees. And I knew, I'm in trouble in this. And then the Steiners, they conversed and they decided, okay, don't try and take him down. Don't just shoot in and hang on to his leg and just wear him out. Make every takedown last as long as you can. And I only took him down 11 times. Finally got one. But what's funny is, okay, so I just sent the Steiners. I put it in there on their thing, and I emailed it today to them. Somebody sent me a little video of a little kitten that was just like 6 inches long, and there's like a 4 foot high in the kitchen, a countertop, and the kitten looks like it's going to try and jump up it. It jumps about 2 inches high. And I sent this video to the Steiners. I go, this is how close you guys were to taking me down when you were a freshman. I swear to God, I just sent that to him today.
That's pretty good.
I sent that to him.
That's pretty good.
And I will tell you this. Okay. I had so much fun in the wrestling room. It's like when Jay Robinson, we'd go 10 out of 10. Let's go 10 out of 10 takedowns. The first 3 times, 10 out of 10, he won all 10. And then the 4th time we went it, and this was like over a course of 4 years. And then like my senior, I don't even know, it was like, might have even been after I won the Olympics but Jay weighed like, he probably weighed 190 and I weighed like 150, and all of a sudden he came out and he wrestled me wrong and I threw him to his back and pinned him twice. And I go, Captain Robinson's getting a little old. And there are 2 stories that I call Don't Poke the Bear. Okay. And Captain Robinson, he kind of gets up and he grinches his neck like this. And I see him get a little determination and he knows how to wrestle me, and he comes out and takes me down the next 8 times. So I wrote that story and I told it, and I always write a title to the story. And I said, the title of this story was, does 2 pins beat 30 takedowns? So I titled the story, Lubu pins J Rob twice. Okay. So that was the title to my story. So anyways, with the what was the other story I was going to say?
Oh, you're probably your match with Gable.
Oh yeah. So yeah, you had Gable in there, and Gable just yeah. And I told that story. I won't repeat that one now because that takes a little too much long. But Gable just basically could destroy me even after I just pinned the. That's when I said, yeah, I just pinned the world champ from Russia. I'd been at 149. I had 13-4 and pinned him. And then I asked Gable if he wanted to work out, and he just beat the heck out of me. And yeah. Anyways, but in the room, you took your lumps. Oh yeah, and then it was with Terry Steiner. Don't poke the bear. That was my don't poke the bear story about I poked Jay Robinson. He was the bear. One time when Troy was a freshman the year he got 5th, Terry was JV. He wasn't varsity, and we were at the NCAA's working out, and it was like on Saturday afternoon in between sessions, and I'd been partying for 3 days. The NCAA's I always party quite a bit during that week, So, shocker.
Yep.
Okay, so Terry Steiner don't drink at all, so he's having his best day ever against me, and we teased about the Dakota title. So Leroy Smith was running the practice. It was a national team's practice, and he says, "Okay, one more match and we're done." And Terry Steiner says to me, "Lubo," he goes, "You want to go this match for the Dakota title?" So all of a sudden, don't poke the bear. So I went out there and I took him down and pinned him in like 10 seconds. And I probably beat him about 35-3 or worse and just destroyed him and had him on his back. And he about cried coming off my, and I probably pinned him 3 times. And I got up and said, "Don't poke the bear."
Oh yeah.
So we tease each other about that. I get along with the Steiners and the Brands so well, and we all love each other. And and I've had battles with so many people, and I've kicked a lot of ass, and I've gotten my ass kicked, as everybody has.
Well, you have some very wise words. I'll have you on again many, many times, Randy. I love hearing the stories, the names that you could throw out, and the experiences you have. I'd really like to hear some of the mindset stuff, on how you just prepared yourself and how wrestlers take it to the next level. Because you know what, I kind of missed my calling when it came to that, a little bit. I undergoaled myself. It's kind of funny because I always had this vision of being a state champion, and I didn't look beyond that really in a lot of senses. Yeah. And so having that closed mind, how to take it to the next level a little bit.
And my dad and I, even starting from 5th grade, my dad and I, and when I won state in 5th grade, I knew I was going to be a wrestler. I knew I was going to be an Olympic champ. And we set the goals each year, this and that. And it's just like, okay, so if I beat somebody I won 4-3, and my next year, my goal was to beat everybody by 4 points or more. Well, I did. And my closest match at the state meet was 9-0 to the same guy that I'd beat 4-3, Dudley Duffenbaugh from Burke, South Dakota. And then I beat, and so, and every year people would say, well, next year I'm going to beat Randy Lewis. Well, like I'd beat somebody 9-0 and because next year I'm going to beat him. Well, next year I'd be head 9-0 and pin him in the first period. That's why the guys that in 7th grade, in 6th grade, I was having close matches with, I was pinning and beating at 10-0 when I pinned him in the first period, so that was, I had those goals and I set them and I did the things that were necessary, and I outworked everybody and did not just outworked, but did the right work and had the right mental attitude. If you do the wrong work, if you practice something 1,000 times wrong, you're not gonna. You need to get, wrestling is something where if you get the right coaching and learn the right moves and do them right, and I had an ability to learn the right moves and improve on them and do things my own way in it, kind of, and I believed in myself so much. And I just loved the sport, and I loved all the friends that I've made in it.
I agree. That's the best part of this. All the friendships that I've got from the sport. Yeah. So true. Well, I'm going to actually wrap it up. We're sitting at an hour and a half. I'm going to make my last words, and then I'm going to have everybody else say their last words. I tell you what, love the sport. I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. Bill?
Yeah, hey, this has been a treat. I know, I relish the fact that we might be able to get to do this again with Randy. I'm glad we were able to get him on tonight. It was good to be able to talk to Shawn and get a good feel of what's going on in Pierre. And I'm excited to see what happens there as the season goes on. And I'm just obviously a big wrestling fan, and this has been a treat for me. So thanks to both you guys and John for putting it together tonight.
Oh, definitely. And Shawn, let's go to you, and then we'll have Randy clear us up.
Oh, thanks for having me on. Love to be able to brag up our program here in Pierre, and get to listen to Randy's stories is definitely a treat for the night. So it was a blast. Look forward to being on again sometime.
Oh yeah, Shawn, we'll have you on soon too. Randy, yeah, let's get some last words for you for tonight.
Okay, well, I just want you to know that people out there, I love wrestling, and I worked my butt off in it, and we've had South Dakota has had probably their most successful sport ever is wrestling. We've had the Shears, the Koslowskis, myself, Lincoln McRavy. That's 6 Olympians there. We've had we've had several guys doing very well in the at other levels, at the NCAA level. South Dakota's had great wrestling, and it's something that I'm very proud that I feel like I had a very, very big part of helping set the stage for the guys to come to D1 and go on to the Olympic level and have a world championship level and have success. And wrestling has just been great for me. Thank you very much.
Oh, definitely. We'll have you on again. Again, this is John Gums, Dakota Grappler. I tell you what, Randy, I will find you at one of these national tournaments, and we'll have an adult beverage or two together.
All right.
Definitely. And we'll tell some stories. That's what I love.
Yeah.
Well, everybody, I tell you what, go promote the sport of wrestling. It's an interesting season. We'll talk about that, but we'll live through 2020, and we'll keep this wrestling going. We know we all love this sport. You guys have a great night. Dakota Grappler, we're out. Have a good night.
Bye.
Good night.